Welcome to today's review of this IWC Engineer 40 Homage. So let's get a few things out of the way first. The actual dimensions of this piece as I measure it. So for the case diameter, I get just about 40 millimeters. The lug to lug of the actual case is about 45, but the end link does protrude and the bracelet does fold right down, which is nice, but the effective lug to lug, including the end links, is about 48.5. So I was worried about that being too long, but it's not. So that's some good news. The thickness is only 10.5. And this lovely bracelet goes from about 23.5, tapers down to just under 18 millimeters to this butterfly clasp. Oops. And I've worn this just for about a day, received it yesterday, and so far I've been really impressed. I was worried about how this bracelet would feel in terms of comfort and, articulation and quality and finishing, just, a lot of concerns about the bracelet, and I have been pleasantly surprised. So let's dive in and take a closer look. And make sure you do hit that subscribe button so you get notified when I post more videos. But one of the things I was concerned about on this bracelet was how it was going to feel. I've only purchased a few watches from AliExpress. I'm not one of those channels that does, strictly AliExpress watches, but I've purchased a few San Martin watches, and I'll bring one here into the frame just as an example. So I always find that this oyster style bracelet feels quite uncomfortable to me in terms of the sharpness on the edges of the links, and they kind of dig into my wrist, and I always find that I put it on a strap. San Martin, case and dials, I've always enjoyed so far, but I can never find the bracelet on the oyster style bracelet to be comfortable. And this guy here, the bracelet has been so comfortable. I was really surprised at how comfortable it's been. So let me put this aside here. You can get a quick size comparison, by the way. So this IX watch is about, I'll just call it IX. It's about 40 millimeters as I measure it for the case diameter. This San Martin is a 39 millimeter mil sub Homage. So the size is somewhat similar. This IX is really a perfect size for my 6.5-inch wrist. Like I said, I've been impressed and I really enjoy the size. So let's put the San Martin back down and talk more about this bracelet. So I actually, when I feel it, I feel a little bit of sharpness on the side. So when I first felt it, I was a little bit worried, but I think it's more on the ends of the links as opposed to the underside of the edge. So I would rather have it on the ends of the links here as opposed to the underside, because I don't feel the sharpness when it's on my wrist. So the comfort in terms of sharpness has been okay. Not just okay, it's been comfortable, so I don't have an issue with the sharp edges like I did with San Martin. And the reason I mention it is, if you've been watching my videos, you might have noticed that I'm pretty hard on bracelets. I am really picky. I guess I have a little bit more sensitive wrists, and they do get irritated if the bracelet is sharp. In this case, this bracelet has not irritated my wrists. The next thing to discuss is the end link. Yes, it protrudes, but the bracelet does drape down and articulates completely down on that first link, so that is really good. I was worried about this kind of sticking out like it does on the PRX. Not the case here, which is good. And this way this is where it stops in the upward direction. And that's not been an issue because it does drape down. Now, The next thing to look at is how well do the links articulate? Do they move freely? I have not had a single link binding up on this one, so that has been great. It's not one of those bracelets that can kind of fold onto itself. The links are too close to let that happen. And here is a link that I took out. So I took out 4 to get a fit for my 6.5-inch wrist. And now, of course, I'll give you a wrist shot soon. But here is the link taken out, and here is the articulation of that center link, in case you were wondering. And it is held together by screws. The screws, 2 of the screws came out nice and easy. 2 screws were a bit tough to get started, so they were in there very tight. But once they were, once I was able to get them turning, they were able to come out. But 2 were tight and 2 were just fine, for whatever that's worth. The next thing that I was worried about was, because this has a butterfly clasp, it does not have any half links. Here you go, no half links. I took out 4 full links, and I was worried about getting a perfect fit. And oddly enough, this worked out for my wrist, and it fits me just about perfect. And even if there was a half link, if I was to add it, I think it would be too loose. So I would have liked a clasp, of course, with micro adjustments. But as it is, it worked out for me. But I definitely would like to see half links, or if they could just change it up and change it to a different style of clasp that gives you micro adjustments, that would be great. Of course, this bracelet looks so good that you want to see, you know, every link, but to me, it's not worth it. I would always rather have micro adjustments and half links. If I could have both, that would be ideal. But if they want to keep it this way with the butterfly clasp, then I would highly suggest that they include half links. Bracelet appearance, you know, it's brushed on the sides, brushed look here with these polished edges and polished sections of the center link. So it catches the light, looks nice and expensive and luxurious when on your wrist. And it's not too wide at the top. Like I said, it's about 23.5, really nicely integrated into the case. It's got a great taper. There you can see the taper down to just under 18, which is what you end up with most watches that taper down to 16. They'll be 18 millimeter at the clasp. So that's all great. The brushing might be a touch heavy. Now, I've never held the real IWC in my hand, so I don't know how heavy the brushing is. But this, just based on my preference, it looks a little bit heavy brushing. I would have preferred a little bit finer, but perfect matching as far as I can tell with the case and the bracelet. Sorry, I left a piece of tape here, and it's hard to get that off with the tripod in front of me. There you go. Watch was packaged really nicely. I don't like to show the full unboxing in my videos, but nice case that it comes in, and it was all wrapped up in plastic as usual. Now, the other thing that I was concerned about was the shade and quality of that textured dial. And again, I am impressed with what I see so far. The shade is a nice, you know, bluish green, I guess teal color. Again, I've never held the real one in my hand, but this is a really nice color. The options on this one are similar to what IWC provides you with, I think, white, gray, black, and this teal or blue color. The texture pattern, does it look too plasticky? That was one of the concerns. I wouldn't say so. It really shines when, excuse me, it really shines when under, you know, direct lighting or under outdoor lighting. It just looks, you know, really impressive. And it's got that textured pattern in the center section, and then there's an outer outer section on the where the minute tracker is, and that's got like a radial circular finishing. The indices and handset look really nice. The indices sit nice and proud on that dial. Have a good amount of lume application, and of course I'll also give you a lume shot here in a moment. All of the lume color on the indices and hands matches just perfectly. There's no mismatch, which you see even on some San Martin watches. The polishing is done really nicely, looks really nice and high quality. Hopefully it's coming through on the camera. Date is framed nicely, and the date wheel is color matched, which is a great little touch. The branding, I won't get into that for the brand name, but the printing and the quality of everything is just top notch. I'm just very impressed so far by this piece and by what this brand has done. The case itself, the finishing has been great. Like I said, the brushing might be a bit heavy, but very consistently done. It's got a very high quality, crisp, polished chamfer along the case, and this polished bevel. Sorry, the polishing on the bezel here is terrific. The circular brush finishing on this bezel is also great. So yeah, so far not much to complain about in terms of how this has turned out. The bracelet has a downside of the clasp and the half link, but the finishing and feel of the bracelet is really good. And here is the signed crown, nicely done crown guards. Of course, IWC gets the credit for this incredible design. Butterfly clasp operation is just perfectly fine. No issues. Even on cheaper watches, I notice if they have a butterfly clasp, the quality tends to be pretty good. There you go. Here is the case back. It says Sapphire 10-bar automatic movement. And of course, this has a PT 5000. That's been the one downfall, is the crown has been super, super gritty and difficult to screw back down. So that's one downside. Anytime I try a PT 5000, I seem to have issues with the crown, so be aware of that. Yeah, very cool watch. Let me know if you guys have any specific questions that I can answer in the comment section, and make sure you subscribe and I'll give it a full review. But so far, super impressed. Let's see how it looks on my 6.5-inch wrist, and we'll give it a lume shot, and I can show you a couple of other quick size comparisons here also. But here you go. Here's how it looks on my 6.5-inch wrist. Sits, I think, just about perfectly. It's just about the right case size. Lug to lug is good. Case diameter of 40 is just about the sweet spot. Lovely dial, catches the light beautifully, surprisingly comfortable, and shockingly, I got a perfect fit, even though there are no half links and no adjustability on the clasp. So there you can see it's just about perfect. Does not slide around on my wrist at all. So I might have gotten lucky with the 6.5-inch wrists, but that will depend on your size of wrist, of course. And let's just do quick size comparisons. Here I can show it next to the classic Seiko Alpinist. And the Alpinist, I've always found, wears a touch bigger than I would like, but there's the Engineer 40 next to it. This one we already looked at. There we go. And from the side. The other thing is the thickness on this IWC Homage is just perfect. 10.5 sits perfect on the wrist. No bezel, no diver here. Here's a smaller San Martin. This is a 38, I think. So here's how it looks next to a 38. Another Mil Sub Homage. And I'll lay these next to each other so you can get an idea of the loom. I'll turn off the lights. And yeah, like I said, guys, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you found this video helpful, make sure you hit the like button also. And go ahead and check out some of my other reviews.